Hello and welcome to another edition of Issues with Jide. Here we talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our national and political landscape and how they impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, the Senate passes bill prohibiting payment of ransom and others. An abducted Kaduna train passenger gives birth in captivity. And later on the show, IPOB lawyer says DSS gives Nnamdi Kanu food once daily. In the course of the program, we'll take your questions, but first, subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your questions in the comment section. I have joining me via Zoom all the way from the north is the maestro himself, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. It's good to see you today again, BKO.
Yeah, good to have you do this with me again.
Right. So let's begin with the Senate sponsor, the Senate passing the bill on payment of ransom or not. You know, what do you make of the bill passed by the Senate to prohibit the payment of ransom to kidnappers in Nigeria, to start with?
First and foremost, I don't think we need to enact laws that we will not be able to enforce. What we must do is to protect our people better. Right now, we are not doing that. We are not giving our people the best of protection. And we now think that we can put an end to kidnapping by simply stopping people from paying ransom. It's very ridiculous. I can tell you that if one of those senators gets kidnapped today, they are going to pay a hefty ransom. We've had situations in which even the police advised people to go ahead and pay ransom. That's the police. If any of your loved ones have been kidnapped before, that is when you will know that indeed we have issues in our country. Because the law enforcement agents that you would expect would help you will not be ones advising you to go and find a way to pay ransom. So this is the problem that we face, where law enforcement agents would be advising relatives of captives, abductees, to go ahead and pay ransom because they themselves have given up. How many times do the police successfully rescue kidnapped persons? How many times? Sometimes they do not rescue, but they will come and lie to Nigerians that, oh, soldiers rescued someone somewhere. Oh, the police rescued someone somewhere. Some people sneak out of the den of kidnappers, and while trying to meander their way to safety, they will see policemen by the roadside. Those policemen will lead them into the town. They will now say that they rescued the person. If there are about 100 persons who are kidnapped, how do you manage to rescue an individual? Because Nigerians don't ask the right questions. We just behave like, oh, whatever the law enforcement people say, we have to believe. And there are people who sit on social media who apparently are paid to launder the image of our law enforcement agencies. Those people should be ashamed of themselves. We have seen situations in which the police claimed that they rescued individuals, and the individuals now came out to say, no, we paid ransom. It happened in the case of Baba Olufalaye. So I can tell you that 99% of people who walk into freedom after being kidnapped by terrorists, by bandits, are people who parted with ransom. What we must do is to find a way to put an end to this rampant kidnapping of our people. But it is not to punish people who are doing their best to get. We must not come out with laws punishing people who are doing their best to get their people, their loved ones, out of captivity. We should not be making such laws. The other day, the bandits released the MD of the Bank of Agriculture, and they claimed that, oh, it was because it was an old man. I have a friend whose mother is more than 80 years old, and she's one of those people. Till today, she's still being held. So if the abductees, if the abductors simply released that gentleman because they felt he was an old man, but there's someone older than him, far older than him, still being held. Why have they not deemed it fit to release the old woman? So most times when people manage to secure their freedom from the abductors, it is because they paid ransom. You will call security agencies, they will promise you heaven and hell, they will not do anything. When my own auntie was kidnapped, this was what happened. At a point, they were no longer picking my calls. So the best prayer you can give your loved ones who are traveling is for God to protect them against abduction, because once they're abducted, you are on your own. Families are left alone to secure the freedom of their loved ones. Because the alternative is they will kill them in captivity. Government will not be able to launch a military campaign to release them. The police won't be able to storm the den of kidnappers to release people forcefully. How many times do we succeed in doing that? That is the question. It's not as if people are happy to give money to kidnappers. It is because they don't want their loved ones killed. And we've even seen situations in which they pay, yet they still will not release the person that they are holding, either because that person died in their hands or not, or something else happened. So it is not as if some of our people sell their houses. They sell their houses just so that they can secure the release of their loved ones. Some of the parents of those university students in Kaduna State that were kidnapped sold their houses. And for some of them, that's the only thing that they still have, because they are retirees. That's the only thing that they had that was putting food on their table. But in order to secure the release of their loved ones, they had to sell their houses. And even sell cheap so that they can raise the money quickly. So it's not as if our people who are happy to part with this money. This is the hard-earned money that they are parting with so much pain. They are parting with money because they don't want their people killed. This is just the truth. If government cannot secure the release of people through military action, if government will refuse to negotiate with these bandits and terrorists because it is not the policy of government to negotiate, then the alternative is to let people use whatever means is possible to secure the release of their loved ones. El-Rufai also issued this kind of threat, but nobody will listen to him. Nobody will listen to him. Because if you listen to people in government, your loved ones will die in captivity, and nobody wants to see that. It's not as if people are happy to spend money. So what kind of law is that? I can tell you that if a senator is kidnapped today, they are going to pay ransom. They are going to pay ransom. Some of them, when they are traveling, they go with tons of soldiers and policemen. The ordinary Nigerian has not got that luxury because he's going somewhere. Then gun trucks, 7 gun trucks will be accompanying him on a journey. How many Nigerians can hire soldiers to accompany them on journeys? So they have security that you and I don't have. So they can afford to come up with some of these laws. But even then, I can tell you that if any of those senators get kidnapped today, they are going to pay hefty ransom. their friends, their family members will contribute money, they will pay ransom, they will forget that a law was passed criminalizing payment of ransom. Nobody will listen to them, nobody will obey that kind of law as long as their people are in captivity.
Right, BKO.
After all,
let me jump in. It's one
there are
thing.
some states in Nigeria where kidnapping, the death penalty is prescribed for kidnapping. Has it stopped kidnapping? It has not stopped it.
Let me butt in. It's one thing to pass a bill. It's another thing to enforce the same. How enforceable do you think this will be if it eventually becomes a law? And I'd like to link that question to what one of our viewers actually commented on our YouTube channel. He said, maybe when the law is enforced on a citizen, that citizen reserves the right to take the federal government to court for not protecting their loved ones too. Let's see who will blink first.
No, the truth is, against the federal government, it's not always easy to win cases in court. So people will not wait and put their loved ones at risk. They will do what is right. People will ignore that law and do whatever is humanly possible to get their people out of captivity. I also do not think that is easy to enforce that law, because as I said earlier, even law enforcement agents will sometimes advise you to say, look, we have tried our best, so we don't know where they kept your person. No, you better go and negotiate with those bandits. So if law enforcement agents who are meant to enforce this kind of law, when it becomes operational, if they are the people who sometimes would advise people to go and negotiate with bandits, how do you think they will be able to enforce this law? No, this law will not be obeyed. It's as simple as that. When El-Rufai said he was coming up with that law back then, people told him that they will not listen. And they've not listened. The people of Kaduna continue to pay ransom because the state is incapable of protecting them. When it comes to security, the federal government has failed. The governments at state level have failed generally. So the people are in charge of their security. Literally, that's what it's turned to. Those students of the Kaduna, that University of Kaduna, the parents had to individually pay about 100 million. The first time, those who asked for more money, they gave them more money. They negotiated individually. Government left them to their fate. They left them to their fate. It's the same thing that happened in the case of the students of the Baptist College in Kaduna. The Nigerian Baptist Convention had to raise more than 100 million.
All right, Vicky, let's change tack by having a conversation on this similar issue. One of the abducted female passengers of the Kaduna bound train has reportedly given birth to a baby girl in the Bandits hideout. Now, what's more intriguing is that the terrorists were said to have brought in medical doctors and medical supplies into the forest to help the woman deliver safely. I just don't get it, Vicky.
These guys, especially now that they have some Boko Haram elements amongst them, Boko Haram had engineers, they had doctors amongst them. In fact, I remember when Boko Haram sacked the army from the Multinational Joint Task Force headquarters in Baga in 2018, late in 2018. They came with organizers. Some armored vehicles that had been disused, that had been abandoned for some time, their organizers repaired those tires. They repair the tires just so that they can put those armored vehicles to use. So they have all kinds of people. I won't be surprised if there are doctors amongst them, because they know in planning this kind of operation, they knew that some of the people could be ill, and they've kidnapped doctors in the past. So some of those doctors could actually be used to help them take care of patients, treat patients, and all that. We're dealing with extremely dangerous and determined people, determined to continue to carry out this kind of nefarious activities. So they would prepare. They would know that since they are kidnapping a good number of people, some of them will need Medicare, some of them could be pregnant, and all that. So perhaps that person was even at their beck and call, was even a part of their team. The person that served as the midwife was probably even part of the team of bandits. So this is already a big business in our country and very well organized. So this kind of thing is not a surprise to me. After all, in Boko Haram's Sambisa fortress, some of the Chibok girls gave birth. Some of the Chibok girls gave birth. Even some had given birth to 2 kids. So how were they able to do that in the forest? How were they giving birth? How were those Chibok girls that they put in the family way? How were they giving birth to kids in the forest? So it's not really a surprise to me, really, because I know that in the forest, some of the commanders had wives who were giving birth to kids from time to time, giving birth from time to time. So, and with Boko Haram actively involved now in bandit, some of the methods.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is also believed that the terrorists are demanding the release of their top commanders in exchange for the abducted train passengers, of which the federal government said it's doing all it can to free the victims, but the actions being taken are confidential. But my question is, why has it even been difficult for those in authorities to match these criminals stride for stride and even defeat them?
Can I have that question again?
All right, let me take the question again. It is believed that, according to what I said earlier, that the terrorists are demanding the release of their top commanders in exchange for the abducted train passengers, of which the federal government said it is doing all it can to free. Can you hear me, Bikio? Bikio, can you hear me? Bikio, I want to be sure whether you can hear me. Bikio, can you hear me? All right, let me see whether it's. I'm not sure whether
it's a microphone. Can you hear me now, Bikio? Can you hear me now? Bikio? I'm thinking we have a bit of a glitch from the other side. I'm not sure. Bikio, can you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me now? I can hear you. I'm not sure whether you can hear me. Hello, Bikio. I'm not sure whether we can hear Bikio. Because we can see you, I can see you, and I can hear you. Try to say something to be sure if we can, have a conversation. Can you? I guess you need to check your microphone. All right, let's quickly see if you can take a break so we fix the both ends. Stay with us here on Issues with Jide. We'll be back very shortly.
All right, thanks for staying with us here on Issues with Jide. Thank you so much for being there. BKO, let me quickly ascertain whether you can hear me now. BKO, quickly, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great, absolutely fantastic. So I was trying to find out, based on the terrorists, because it's believed that the terrorists are demanding the release of their top commanders in exchange for the abducted train passengers, of which the federal government said it's doing all it can to free the victims, but the actions being taken are confidential. So the question is, why has it even been difficult for those in authorities to match these criminals stride for stride and even defeat them?
I think the criminals sense some level of weakness on our part. They sense that we are weak, and that is what has emboldened them and made them stronger. These guys think that whatever it is, that the Nigerian state cannot defeat them. They believe that the Nigerian state cannot defeat them. And where we need to descend heavily on them militarily, we are not doing that. The strategy is not working. We have suggested that there should be coordinated, simultaneous attacks on these guys across the contiguous states where they are carrying out their nefarious activities. But that has not happened. I have suggested this a number of times. Even the governor of Kaduna State also made that on these people. But that's not happening. So as long as we are unable to deal with them decisively in military fashion, they will continue to carry out these activities. And we are also reluctant to negotiate. So what then do we want to do? We don't want to negotiate with the terrorists. Then the alternative is to crush them. And we are not crushing them. We are just not doing enough to stop the activities. So they will continue to harass our people and make life difficult for our people until we deal decisively with them militarily. That is the language that they understand.
Right. Yeah, Biko, now let's continue by looking at our final topic for today for discussion. IPOB's lawyer, that's Ifeanyi Ejiofor, has alleged that the detained leader of the group, Nnamdi Kanu, in the DSS custody was not allowed to eat more than once a day, and the agency's refusal to allow him to change his clothes despite repeated court orders. How do you react to this, Biko?
I don't really understand what's going on, and one has to be very careful what position one takes on this matter. I know that the judge handling the matter was not happy about the fact that Kanu continues to wear the same white designer dress to court, and she gave an order that Kanu should no longer stop wearing the same dress to court. Now, what Ejiofor, the lawyer, has told us is that Kanu some clothes, some dresses, but those dresses have still not been handed over to him, even after they've been given to the DSS. I don't know the game that is being played between the DSS, Kanu's lawyers, and Kanu's representatives. Someone has got to behave in the right way. And if indeed the judge's directive had been disobeyed, as the lawyer wants us to believe, then at the next hearing of the matter, that complaint should be made to the judge, so that the judge can now make an order on that matter. No one can be bigger of our own. It's a creation of the law. So because it's a creation of the law, it has to be it has to respect the laws of our land. I'm not saying that everything said about the DSS is correct, but I want to believe that the DSS, that the lawyer could not have simply been making wide complaints, because in the past we had heard that the DSS refused to even allow access to Kanu, despite the fact that the judge gave the order that Kanu should be allowed to see his lawyers and see his relation. So Kanu has not been found guilty. So to that extent, he should not be treated like a criminal, no matter how grievous the offense for which is being tried is. The DSS must give him access to his people, to his lawyers, and access to his clothes. On the issue of him being fed once a day, I know that some time ago there was complaint about the kind of food that Kanu wants to eat in captivity. Maybe there are issues, disagreements. Maybe disagreements arose as to what kind of food it can be served. But there's no reason for anyone to be fed just once a day. Or, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So I will expect the lawyers to make this complaint officially before the judge, so that the judge can give an order that will put an end to this shenanigans. As I said, the DSS is a creation of the law, and to that extent, it has to respect the laws of Nigeria, because without the law, the DSS would not have been created. And we do not enjoy hearing some of these negative things about the DSS. When the Shiite leader was being detained, we also had all kinds of things, relating to the infringement of his rights and all that. So these are not things that we should be hearing, that he doesn't eat more than once in detention and all that. It's really embarrassing to hear these things. And like the judge complained, Kanu shouldn't be wearing the same dress to court. It makes no sense. It's just ridiculous. And if an individual or the DSS is the reason Kanu cannot change his dresses, then cannot change his dress, then it has to be addressed. Although, as I said earlier, it may not be the entire truth, because we've not heard from the DSS. I will expect that the DSS would also defend itself on this matter, because to keep someone in detention and not feed him regularly, or feed him as much as he want to be fed, is embarrassing, and the international community is watching. This will certainly give our country a bad name.
All right,
give the impression that
because of our time,
but we don't treat
whether because it's a common place for our security agencies to show overzealousness as well as disobeying court orders. Who checks them really?
As I said, the Attorney General can step in and get the DSS to do what is right. They are not a law unto themselves. They also take instructions. They have their own leaders, and they are under the presidency. So what is important is for Kanu's lawyers to officially complain to the judge, because the judge promised that Kanu will get a fair hearing, and part of getting a fair hearing is also being treated well, even in custody. So because if you treat a man badly in custody, it could be a strategy to break him, and that is not what we want to see. So they've got to complain to the judge, and I'm sure the judge will do something about that. They are not bigger than the state, and they are not bigger than even the judge that gave the order. So the DSS must obey court orders at all times. Yes, talking about overzealousness, we all remember what they did in the house of Sunday Igboho. What they did was reckless, what they did was irresponsible, and they've already lost a case in court, for which up to now the Attorney General has not deemed it fit to appeal. They lost that case. They killed, I think, 2 persons or so, even in that house, and they destroyed this house. It was not, not good to see. Watching that CCTV capture of what transpired in Sunday Igboho's house, no matter what Sunday Igboho has done against the Nigerian state, or whatever is perceived to have done, it doesn't call for that Gestapo kind of invasion on his residence, during which even his cat was seized. So they need to be less overzealous. They need to operate. The DSS needs to operate within the laws of our country, and the DSS need to treat people in complete respect for their fundamental human rights. That's what we want to see.
Yeah.
Because we are a nation governed by laws. We shouldn't take actions that will make us look ridiculous before the international community.
Yeah. Bikio, because of our time, let me quickly squeeze in this question from Fabian Akeze, saying that the federal government, reacting to our first topic, that the federal government should approach Western powers to come and train their security personnel and take over the fight against insurgency. Some of these kidnappers are in cohorts with the security agencies. How do you react to this? Finally.
Well, it's true. Yes, where our security agencies need more training. Certainly, they need more training. In the past, even our soldiers used to get the best of training in some of the best military institutions abroad. But funding is a problem these days. So the privilege of fantastic training that people like IBB and the rest of them got, today's officers do not have that privilege because funding is an issue. So we need the best training for these guys, and some of the training that we are talking about can happen if we partner with countries of the West and even Eastern Europe. So, but talking about connivance, it is true. At least we just we read the story of some soldiers that intercepted some money that security agents were taking to kidnappers. You know, the security agents were taking the money to kidnappers on behalf of relatives of a captive. I mean, this shouldn't be happening. They seized the money along the way. I don't know whether eventually that money has been paid to the kidnappers, but for security agents to be helping civilians, helping relatives of captives to take money to kidnappers, it says a lot about how we have degenerated in our country. And then there was also the case of the soldier who connived with ISWAP to kill people in Geshua earlier this week. Late last week. He was arrested and somehow he took his own life. These things have been happening for some time, and we really, the people run Nigeria security agencies need to be on their toes to fish out these bad eggs who are giving the rest of them a bad name.
Thank you very kindly, BKO. That's our show for today's edition of Issues with Jide. Special thanks to you, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, for those insightful analyses as always, BKO.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
And thank you to our audience for joining us on every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TBC News. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. On behalf of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now.